I didn't mean to hand the wrong envelope to the board chair. I meant to hand the other wrong envelope, the one that would make me look like a nervous idiot, not the one that would throw 2 lives into a wood chipper before lunch. Paper scraped my palm, the AC buzzed like a maddening gnat, and when the chair slid his thumb under the flap, my boss Denise stared at me like she'd already read the ending. Inside were printouts that shouldn't have been in the same stack, small grant variances that looked like rounding errors, invoices from a towing company none of us remembered hiring, and a lease addendum with wide-out scabs where a late fee had been corrected. I'd found all that during the same week my car got towed out of the spot I've paid for 3 years. My landlord, Greg, baseball hat indoors, key ring like a jailer, had just started a permit-only policy that apparently came with a side of A. If you think I'm inventing a conspiracy, I get it. This is small-town nonsense with spreadsheets. But the chair's eyebrows went north, Denise's fingers found her necklace, and my heartbeat moved behind my eyes. I'm the grants guy at a community college. Not glamorous, but I make the buses run for students who need them, I make tutoring happen for single parents, I keep receipts clean. I started hearing a drip, a few bucks off here, a vendor name that didn't ring, a variance with intolerance, that somehow. Then my car disappeared from my own oil-stained rectangle. Greg shrugged at my door with barbecue gloss on his chin and said, "New policy. Towing is immediate. Signs went up yesterday." They hadn't. I checked my camera roll. No notice, no email, just a bill taped under a fluorescent bulb while a guy yelled about a gate. On his desk, a clipboard with pre-filled forms listing my building like a takeout menu. I snapped a photo when he turned. "You didn't see that," he said. "Sure, man." I paid cash, gritted my molars, drove home in a car that smelled like fries and stress, and opened my laptop. The towing yard's address rhymed a little too perfectly with a shell vendor inside our student support line item. That shell matched a P.O. box on my lease addendum. I laughed into my hands because it felt like somebody half-literate was writing a soap opera about me. Before the internet deputizes me, I'm not a cop. I'm a goblin who remembers which cell puked a #value. In 2019, my revenge muscles are small. Or they were. My best friend Jess, roommate emeritus, the person who texts food like a bat signal, watched me pace under my fake lemon AC and said, "You think you're chill, but your quiet multiplies. Pick something and do it. Don't do indecisive sabotage, that's how you get almost fired and almost evicted." People forget almosts. My brilliant plan, 2 mini revenges. For Denise, CC a board member on a simple grant discrepancy so sunlight hit the numbers. For Greg, post the clipboard picture in the neighborhood group with, "Is this normal?" And let the moms go full Jurassic Park. Mini and mini. Satisfying enough to keep me from chewing my cuticles raw. Jess knocked over a coaster and deadpanned, "You're gonna gently CC and unleash Facebook moms." Revolutionary. She kicked the coaster back into place. "Which one do you actually want?" I wanted both. Worse, I wanted them to collide. Ugly impulse, I know. Not about money, I'm fine. Not about fame, I hide from attention. Not pure justice, I forget reusable bags. I'm not a hero. Just this itch to be the person who made Domino's jump tables. And then I found a new lease update, taped to my door, white-out shimmer and all. Higher late fee. Towing partner, slipped into the fine print. A new rule about guest vehicles copy-pasted from a rental agreement. The towing partner's address matche? I printed everything and made 2 envelopes. The timid one full of sticky notes and question marks, and the fat one labeled backup, that I swore I wouldn't use. I wore my serious shirt, sat through 20 minutes of a tech pilot that acted like QR codes were witchcraft, and when the chair said, "Any questions from grants?" my mouth delivered the fat one. I didn't feel like a crusader. I felt like I'd dropped a glass and was now calling it glitter. The chair flipped pages. The room shifted into that silent animal posture rooms make when something's wrong. Denise smiled tight. "Let's remember this is a draft." The chair cut her off with the politest decapitation. "Where did these invoices come from?" "Internal." "Why is student support paying automotive services?" "I have no good answer besides, someone coded it that way." "Are you accusing anyone?" "I'm asking Q." Right after, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. "If you keep poking around, someone's gonna think you want a car collection." The guy said exactly like that. Car collection. I wrote it down. I have one car that smells like ambition and ketchup packets. HR wanted a quick chat, which is code for, We're about to graph your body heat. The room was too cold, the chair unnaturally supportive. Any concerns about internal controls? Yes. Noticed unusual patterns? Yes. Confidential, please? Sure. Back at my desk, Denise was sitting in my chair like she was keeping it warm. You're brave, she said with a smile that kept her teeth from chattering. You could have come to me. I did, I said in my borrowed 6 hours of sleep voice. Twice. This is a learning opportunity, she murmured. That phrase only exists in children's TV and in the mouths of villains. She stood. I'll handle this. She always says that. She says it to fold me into a file. I went home and found a third notice, urgent, underlined hard enough to press into the next page. A magical remaining balance. A late fee that had become a planet. The number on the bottom led to a full voicemail. I sat on the hallway floor and texted Jess. She replied, crash at mine. Bring the Fry mobile. Then I did the dumb human thing. I drove past the towing yard again. I told myself I wanted a photo of the hours, but I wanted a story where what I did in the boardroom was only the prologue. On the chain-link fence, a laminated rate sheet listed partner complexes, in tiny print, like the ingredients list on a snack you know is bad. There was my building. Next to it, a start week. That week matched our first variance with intolerance. I took the photo, slipped on oil, tore a napkin wiping my hands. Next morning, no ticket. A sticker. Bright, clingy, warning me about parking in a restricted area. My assigned spot. I spent 15 minutes and half a fingernail peeling it off. Under it, a permit sticker number I'd never been issued. The manager's office had a note, back at 2. It was 2:17. I posted the clipboard photo to the neighborhood group with a petty caption that was mostly question marks. The moms became an air raid siren. Words like predatory and class action bloomed. An elderly dad had been towed while carrying in groceries. Someone swore the sign went up the day after they posted a bad review. A guy named Big Tom, of course, said he'd worked at the yard one summer and there were handshake things with property managers when quotas got met. He didn't say kickbacks. He said it. HR scheduled listening sessions, in a room that smelled like dry erase markers, complete with untouched cookies. The board chair sent me a thank you for your diligence, and CC'd legal. I sipped water like it could deflect bullets. Jess brought tacos, calmed me by microwaving something that smelled like butter and garlic, then stared at a text I received. A photo of my car taken behind my building. Caption, cute permit. She inhaled slow and steady. We just escalated, she said. Document everything. The non-emergency line told me if I wasn't towed there wasn't a crime. Talk to management. Thank you for nothing. Management said Greg was off-site, as if that were a place on a map. Fine. Here's the part of the envelope I didn't mean to share but did. A copy of an email where Denise forwarded a vendor process request with a string of numbers buried in the body. Those numbers matched a memo line on a towing invoice. The numbers matched the permit number newly stuck to my windshield. Not the one I was issued at move-in, the new one, the one I didn't recognize. When the chair saw that page, he got very quiet in the way that means glasses are coming off and a pen is uncapping somewhere else. I went home and my lock didn't work. The key slid in and stopped like a spoon in cold honey. I texted Jess. I banged on the manager's door hard enough to annoy my knuckles. A new face opened a sliver. We had a lock change order, she said. I showed receipts. She said the system recalculated. I asked for a supervisor. She said to email the inbox. She closed the door. I sat on the sad hallway bench under the maybe plastic plant and texted Jess again. Don't you dare sleep in the hallway like a Victorian ghost, she replied. HR said a follow-up with the chair, legal, and a voice that sounded like ironed consonants. Would I forward all communications with management to a specific address? Would I sign a statement? Also, had I had any tenancy issues lately? Yes. That silence was a pen setting to paper. They thanked me. They asked me to keep it to HR and them. I definitely did not mention a neighborhood brigade now called Tow Watch that posted, incoming, anytime the truck rolled through. Jess handed me a blanket that smelled like dryer sheets and we watched a talent show where everyone cries on cue. I cried off cue and she pretended not to see. This is gonna get dumber before it gets better, she said. True. Edit. I woke up to an adjunct's text with a screenshot of an email thread using the word misallocation. My name was redacted badly. I'm on your side, they wrote. Keep your head down. Rumor had hit fermentation. I camped in the management office lobby with a copy of my lease like a grandma in court. A different person with a T on their name tag told me Greg would be in later. I asked when. Later. I waited. Painters wandered in, someone asked about a package locker, and then a man with high stool posture appeared, slipped behind the desk and swapped places with T. You're OP, he said. Greg drifted in from the back smelling like hot dust. Belt buckle that makes sitting an Olympic sport. We had a change of terms, he started. You were notified. I wasn't, I said, laying out lease payment receipts and the clipboard photo like a poker hand. Also, you can't change locks without a court order. Thank you, 2 a.m. tenant forum. We'll get you a key once you zero out. It is zero, I said. Unless your math includes my car. You look bored. Bored is a weapon. Talk to accounting. Or better yet, talk to your employer. That line tied my two bonfires into one HOA. What does my employer have to do with my lease? He shrugged in the way that says not only I know, but I know you know I know. Some of your benefits are special. Sometimes these arrangements get re-evaluated. I breathe like a librarian when I'm angry, polite, armed with citations, quietly terrifying when I pull the big binder. You can't do this. His eyes did a slow roll. Okay, I said, tone set to the kind of okay that means I'm going to write a letter a judge would kiss. I told HR what he said. Don't worry. Send us everything. I did, with subject lines that were little polite screams. I called the non-emergency line again and said, constructive eviction, out loud like I was on TV. They said an officer could keep the peace if I tried to enter. Great. Does the peace need a permit? When I came back with an officer who wished he were anywhere else, my key worked. My kitchen smelled like my detergent and stale salsa. On the counter, an unmarked envelope with my name stabbed into it in angry letters. Inside, 2 keys on a ring and a sticky note. Communication error. Management. Plus a printed email from a towing rep to Denise, CCing Greg, subject partnership, full of words like mutually beneficial, community safety, and a line that made my teeth feel too big. The educator allowance. Jess stepped in, saw the keys and said, they blinked. I felt a cheap rush. It lasted a minute. Voices in the hallway made me turn off the light like a raccoon. Edit, HR sent a calendar invite for a meeting with stakeholders. Legal. Board chair. Me. Not Denise. 5 minutes later, Denise appeared in my doorway with storm-bright eyes. We're going to get through this, too fast. I need to know everything you sent. I forwarded a subset and held back the email where she used my permit number, because I wanted to see if she'd bring it up on her own. Spoiler, she didn't. That night, a blocked call. We should meet, Greg said in a grown man whisper. Diner off the highway. He'd bring paperwork. If I were smart, I'd leave my phone at home. You're screaming, no. You're smarter than me at 10 p.m. with my bed far away. I said yes. Jess said, absolutely not. And I said I'd text from the bathroom like that's a safety plan and not a plot device. The booth tried to glue me down. Greg wore a jacket pretending to be casual. He slid a folder across. Notices, my lease, and a letter on college letterhead praising our community partner in maintaining a safe environment for our student residents, signed with a name I knew. The signature looked Xeroxed. This is a misunderstanding, he said. We get heat if the lot has abandoned vehicles. My car wasn't abandoned. He held up a hand like a crossing guard. We're trying to do good. Look, there's pressure on budgets. We all help each other. Denise explained it. My hearing tunneled when he said her name. Explained what? That funds can be redirected. In exchange, we keep the lot clean. Certain cars get noted. He tapped the fake letter with a too long nail. Efficient. Everyone wins. You of all people should understand. It's for students. We have a tutoring program that survived last year because a vendor donated back services. Not illegal, a handshake with receipts. Help people. But you start using doing good, like duct tape, and suddenly it's covering theft and calling it maintenance. I could see the argument he wanted me to swallow. You like students, don't you? You hate junk cars, don't you? You like working systems, don't you? Then don't jam the gears. I'm not going to jail for a parking morality play, I said too loud. The waitress refilled coffee the color of cardboard. Nobody's going to jail, He smiled with his mouth, not his eyes. You'll go to that meeting and say this was an accounting error. He got confused. You're sorry you wasted time. And if I don't? You'll owe more than you think. Maybe your car visits another yard. Maybe your HR file looks colorful. He shrugged. We all have a past. My past is overdue library books and once lying about liking a baby. I peeled myself out of the booth, paid for my coffee, and shook in my car until my ligaments came to a quorum. I didn't go home. I went to the 24-hour print place that smells like toner and regret, and printed the permit email, the partnership thread with Greg CC'd, and his fake praise letter next to a real public board praise letter that looked nothing like it. I labeled everything like the terminal goblin I am. I made another envelope. Morning came pale and unforgiving. HR's room was full, chairs and AU like a horseshoe around something fragile. The chair looked underslept. Legal looked ironed. Internal audit materialized like a man in a cloak. They asked me to walk through the breadcrumbs and I did without a tremor. Then I said, there's one more thing, and the air pinched. I put the permit email down. The partnership with Greg CC. The fake praise letter beside the real one. The difference between them filled the room like fog. Thank yous, precise questions, forwarding the neighborhood thread, yes, including Big Tom's handshake confession. They asked about the lock change. About any other contact. I repeated car collection, and they all wrote at the same time. 2 days later, Denise left carrying a plant. No cuffs, no theatrics, just the slow walk of a person who knows every eye is on the back of their neck. The chair sent an all-staff about transparency, process improvements, and realigning partnerships. The towing yard took down the laminated sheet. The partner complex's list vanished. The clipboard too, I'm sure. Greg sent a building-wide note apologizing for communication errors and offered a one-time goodwill adjustment. No sorry. No names. A realtor sign sprouted on the lawn whispering about opportunities. If he's selling, I'm not shocked. Kickbacks die under sunlight. So do certain businesses. Before you knight me, here's the part that earns me YTA in caps. HR offered me a retention bonus. We appreciate your diligence. We need people like you. Nice bump. It also made me the face of a cleanup that delayed bus passes while realigning. A student cried in my office because she missed an interview waiting for a pass. She said it wasn't my fault. I said we'd fix it. I sent a chunk of the bonus to the mutual aid the moms organized. The brick on my chest didn't move much. Maybe that's the tax for doing the right thing in a messy way. Update: a detective called to ask about vendor relationships. Polite to the point of parody. Would I testify if needed? Yes, I said, before consulting my anxiety. He thanked me, said names that weren't mine, said there's interest at the city. I hung up and stared at a water ring Jess keeps telling me to use a coaster for and tried to feel proud. Mostly I felt tired. Was I justified with my too many revenges? On a good day, yes. On a bad day, I pictured Denise with her plant and remember all the times I clicked submit while she was on a working lunch. On an honest day, I think I got mad about my car and poured that anger into a bigger thing that made me look brave. Doesn't mean the bigger thing wasn't real. It means humans don't have clean emotions and we justify our mess by picking the story that lets us sleep. There's one detail from the start that reframes the opening. When the envelope opened and the air left the room, I almost said, wrong one. I almost grabbed it back and apologized my way into being small again. I didn't because my phone buzzed. The neighborhood thread, truck in our lot now, attached to a sedan with a car seat. I shut up and let a bad thing fall into a bigger thing. Maybe that's fate. Maybe it's algorithm. Maybe it's me finally choosing the kind of wrong that points toward right. I still park in my spot. The sticker residue on my windshield is a ghost ring that won't scrub out. At red lights I catch myself tracing it with a finger. Jess says it's my trophy. I say it's my tell. She says get a better one. We laugh, eat tacos, and I keep every receipt like it might keep me back. If you were in my shoes, would you have done it differently? Honest verdicts welcome. I can take it.